on the matter, because we're told repeatedly on the television and in the press that it's digital Britain, how business and industry should start up in this country, and how we're pioneers and we're spearheading the lead on the internet, and it's complete rubbish. The UK is very far behind in my view. I would say we're at least...
Is that for the same reason that places in the States are like that? It's the rural versus urban areas?
Yeah, I think there's a massive divide between the urban areas, London and certainly where I'm, Luton, and the more rural areas. I mean, I get a rather poor speed. It's at the end of the day here. I had to recently tether my mobile phone because my net connection went down, and tethered to my mobile, I actually got the same speed as I did from a landline. So it goes to show that there's still a lot of work in the UK to be done before we can be considered.
If you want a fast connection, you have to go to Asia. This actually is a sign of the future, because even though they have dense populations usually, well, they have a very fast connection, and that kind of helps to subsidize if you look at the distribution of pipes in Africa, the amount of people who would be capable of paying or be interested in paying for an internet connection is very small compared to the size of the population, the size of the land. And even if they can pay, they probably won't pay as much as usual. So you don't really have many pipes going beneath the ocean. You don't have many, so-called pipes going through the land. And even if you do find them, they don't have very good. It's basically you don't have many so-called arteries going around the continent. You don't really know how slow the internet is unless you go even to South Africa, because they depend on the route of the pipes going from the north. And it's really hard for them to compete. And you mentioned dial-up speeds. You have to remember that sites are getting a lot heavier because they assume everybody's got broadband. So it's if you have a slow connection, you suffer more and more as time goes by.
That's the way the big society's heading here. More and more people can't afford to buy the big packages, so they get the cheap ones. But I mean, Britain has got a long history of different services being monopolies, and there's whole legacy piping and trains and train lines, and everything's legacy from pre-Victorian era. There's not enough money from the government to invest in it, so they privatise it, and then even that privatising is all cutting costs. And so we've got a whole legacy stuff to deal with here.
Sorry, Ross, you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, at the end of the day, the thing that the average consumer doesn't get is there's geographical limitations to this technology, because the bits can only move at the speed of light, which means if you get too far away from that infrastructure node, it literally, the speed cannot be delivered, and how many people there are in that geographical radius, well, that's the people who are paying for that node. If there aren't enough of them, it doesn't make sense until we figure out a way. One of the kookier things I've seen proposed to fix this problem is basically like we do satellite thing, except do it in the lower atmosphere with blimps. So the blimps would be close enough to the surface of the Earth that the lag between them would be in the same lag as a physical infrastructure across the whole continent. That would fix places like South Africa, because then you could just tether the blimps from South America over to South Africa, or from China over to South Africa, and it'd be far less infrastructure. But that's a multi-trillion-dollar planetary infrastructure. That's not going to happen anytime soon.
I think BT were talking about, they made a great deal of rolling out this super fast fibre broadband or whatever it was, and then they were trialling it in different areas, and they said, well, if we get X number of people in an area who are committed and who sign up to it, then we'll do it. It's all sort of cost. If they've got enough people, I mean, I don't imagine if they said, right, we're going to charge, say, 20 quid a month, they'll have a lot of people signing on to it, but it won't make them much money for the money that they're actually investing in it. So they'll be wanting to say, right, okay, we'll put this fibre in, but the package is going to be like £100 a month. And only the people who are willing to pay that will be signing up for it. And if they get enough, then it's worth their while, and then they can invest in it. But anyway, we're kind of rat hole in this.
And I should say something about BT. We spoke about them, I think, for like 4 consecutive shows. I was recently, I was added as a customer after they kind of made it really hard to cancel the order. And so far, whenever I say that there is a downtime, about once a week it falls down for a while. They try to kind of send those bot accounts in Twitter, kind of saying, "Oh, we would like to help you. Oh, try this, and if it doesn't work." These people try to talk back to you and try to kind of silence you, especially if you have some followers. I think they do try to make sure you're happy. But one of the things I should say about BT, though, they can make all the promises they want, but if you're far away from the exchange, there is nothing they can do to make it faster. And this is why currently the place where I live, I chose it also because I'm living about 2 miles away from what's called Janet, and Janet is just an acronym, and it's one of the big pipes in the UK and actually the Northwest. And this is why I get very, very low latency. It's probably good also for recording these calls because I probably take just a few milliseconds to get even things across the Atlantic from here. And because of both of my jobs require me to work over SSH, it's really important that I'm able to actually interact with things sometimes graphically, like clicking buttons, and the clicking actually goes down the network, and I have to see what results from it. If things are slow, it's like my GUIs and everything slows down if I don't get a fast network. And this is where we're talking about how they advertise the networks, but it's once again, even if a person pays for the most expensive packages, but the person doesn't live in a central place, it's kind of beneficial in some cases. Yeah. And the United States is a very big place. I think this is one of the reasons they have a much lower connection, say, than Romania or Hungary.
Well, no, see, there are places in the States where you can get last mile. Like Silicon Valley and a couple of major metropolitan areas. But for the whole, you're doing good to get a 20 megabyte connection. And like you're saying, if you're not near the major metropolitan area, you can buy it, but you're not going to get it. That's one of the real reasons I have here. I am like 2 hours outside of a major metropolitan area. So of course my internet sucks, but I know why it sucks. I'm on the boondocks. I'm just this shy of being in the rural area. I'm not in the urban area.
Mm-hmm. Well, what we'll do, we're going to take a break midway through the show, and maybe a little bit more than that now. I'm going to take a break with a nice little Creative Commons track I've discovered. As I apologise on most shows, I'm very sorry if you don't like death metal music, but it's a favourite of mine. And since I'm the only one who seems to look for the Creative Commons tracks that catch my ear, then you're going to have to put up with my choice. This particular one's by a band called Nosfares, and it's from their album Dark Desires, and it's called, in true death metal fashion, Abyss of Hell. So I think you can gather what it's going to be like before you even listen to it. So without further ado, we'll put that on now, and then we'll come back and continue the discussion.